Just because you live in rural America doesn't mean you can't have entrepreneurial dreams and make those dreams come true. And we are about to prove it. Brought to you by Ranch House Designs, the powerhouse behind America's rural marketing. You may live in a small town, but you can do big things. Here's your host, Harley Gable.
Hi y'all, I'm Harley and I'm here to guide y'all on another episode of the Heartland Hustle. Today we have Kolten Thigpen in the hot seat, a guy who wears more hats than you can count. Kolten's journey started as a 12-year-old in Hondo, Texas, which is one of my favorite Texas towns. I kind of like to think of it as the gateway to the Frio River and the last stop that you can get normal priced groceries before you get to the Frio. Fast forward a bit, and Kolten's playing football at Texas A&M University, Kingsville, and then at Texas A&M University, College Station. All the while, he's building QB Cattle Company. These days, you can find Kolten in Sweetwater, Texas. Population, roughly 9,000. It's known for the world-famous rattlesnake roundup and having more wind turbines than you can count. According to Kolten, there is no gentle breeze. The wind howls, sand flies, and tumbleweeds roll, but he loves it. One of his favorites about Sweetwater is the low humidity and the cooler nights, making life better for the cattle and the stud service bulls at Bullnanza. And if you ever swing by Sweetwater, Kolten has a hot spot for you, Ma Allen's Chicken Joint. Quote, "The food's good, but it's the dining experience that's truly unique. It's family dining, so not only do you not order, you get as much as you want of whatever was made for that day, but you sit at the large tables with strangers and you pass the biscuits, please." Kolten married his high school sweetheart Sarah, and they are raising 2 little boys along with their cattle. Running QB Cattle Company, Bullnanza Stud Services, and Express Livestock Genomics is a lot, but Kolten does it with humility and obedience that I can't help but admire. He summed it up perfectly in our pre-interview. God, people, and experiences have blessed us with our opportunities. We stand on their shoulders and try to do the very best with what we've been blessed with. Trust me, you'll understand what he's talking about after you listen to this amazing episode. Kolten, I am just so excited to have you on the podcast today and getting to talk to you about QB Cattle Company, Bullnanza Stud Service, and Express Livestock Genomics. You are a former Aggie football player and a fellow South Texan, now residing in West Texas in Sweetwater, where you run these companies, as well as a Bullnanza location in Stillwater, Oklahoma. It's great to have you on here, and I'm just so excited to begin.
Thank you very much. Well, it has been a fun ride, and I don't know what I'm doing with so many irons in the fire, but I guess I wouldn't have it any other way.
Definitely, I'm sure. How about let's start out with you telling me about what QB Cattle Company is.
QB Cattle Company was a childhood passion, really. I never thought of it doing anything else, to be real honest. That was what I eat, sleep, and breathe outside of sports. Growing up was showing, and not only showing, but I've always been fascinated with raising cattle. And I've told people that breeding cattle is a form of art for me. It's something I really enjoy, and so it's something that I started. People are like, "Why you call it QB cattle? That's not your initials. That's not, what does that have to do with anything?" And I'd played quarterback my whole life, and I started a business in 6th grade. And so whenever your mind is on sports and cows and you just combine them together, and I was being punny, and QB didn't stand for quarterback for my cattle company. It stood for quality bred.
Oh,
And I started it then, and I just never changed it.
I love it. I was gonna ask you what it was for. I didn't want to assume that it was quarterback or, anything. I was like, I feel like there's a double entendre there, but.
Yeah, yeah. It was quality bred, and my slogan was "Be a leader in the ring."
Love it. And so you started it very young, and what you do is you're the Half-Blood Nation. Expand a little bit upon that.
Yeah, I started it young with no extremely humble and small beginnings. My dreams were way bigger than my resources. I had no income, had no checkbook, but we had literally like a 10-acre trap behind our house, and my dad said I could put cows there. So I started dreaming, and we had a family run sale barn. And so anytime, especially if a Brahmin would come through, I would talk my parents into buying it for me. And then it got to where I had to buy my own, which I was fine with because I had a place to put them. And then feed was another thing. So I had to beg, steal, and borrow for feeding these deals. And really starting out, it was just, there wasn't anything show worthy, but I love the Brahmins. And so I had like 3 different Brahmin females, and got to a point where I raised my first one. Her name was Sadie, and Sadie was like a more gentle than most people's dogs. And she literally, once she became old enough to get into production, she was not good enough to try to raise one, but I bred her that way anyway. And I'll be doggone if she didn't work. And the first calf she raised, I sold for $1,500, and I thought I was like King Daddy. and that calf went on, and like he did good for the family. I actually went to a West Texas family, and he was extremely gentle. Like would go in the barn, turn on his own fan, but never placed, never did anything big. But man, it started that fire in me, and so I would look up on Bovine Elite. I'd stay up all night and with my dial-up internet and dream of bulls that would work with them. And I ended up AIing her again, and I got lucky, and she had another bull calf, and that one I consigned to Medina County Club Calf Sale. And a guy named Bolo Rodriguez was a South Texas ag teacher who would also bid against me in the sale barn. Whenever I'd try to buy a calf out of the sale barn, he'd be trying to buy a calf for a family that didn't have a big budget too, and we'd bring a $500 calf up to like $800, $900, and all those old guys in there wondering what the heck we were smoking. But Bolo bought that calf for his daughter, and it placed in Houston. And from that point on, I was like, I can do it. It gave me confidence. And so I got an FSA loan of $5,000, and I had an ag teacher, Roger Welch, that helped me out and gave me a good price on a pair. The first man I ever worked for outside of my family was Paul Alvoit, and he sold me a Milkman Angus heifer, and he was very generous on the price of that one. And then I got another one in a cow sale that she had sloughed, and I got her cheap. And one more, I could afford one more from the sale barn. And this was a Gert cow that I thought was incredible. And I bought her. That was the last of my FSA loan money. So I get to AIing on those, and messed up so many times on setting them up and trying to get them bred and trying to get them AI'd. A couple of them stuck. I thought they were all bred. One day in the summer, I'm checking the cows. I'm talking on the phone with Brandon Horn. At this time, I'd only met him once, and he was like I was a fanboy kind of guy. I mean, I didn't really know him, but I was honored that he'd even talked to me. And this cow had come into heat, and it broke my heart because you have a small window that they can get bred and work for the proper age in the show steer world. It's not like, well, you just throw another straw in her now and she'll be the same type of value. No, it broke my heart, and it was completely out of the window. And he said, oh, it's all good. He said, just flush her. And I said, flush her? I said, I'm just trying to figure out how to AI, and I messed up that so many times, and I don't have any money to do that flushing. I just heard it's expensive and da-da-da. And he said, well, next time you come up here, I'll buy her from you. And I was like, really? And he said, how much do you want for her? And I said, oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess what she'd bring at the sale barn. And he said, you just bring her up here and we'll work something out. And whenever I got up there in the next month or two, I took her, and a man, he didn't want no American cow, but he pumped me up, said I did good on picking her out, and that gave me confidence. And then a guy named Frank Davis bought her and bred her to solid gold. And I think he actually flushed her, and he had 5 calves that he sold, one for like 5,000, one for 7,500, kept a couple heifers. And I was like, man, I really
Yeah.
had one that was good enough to flush. I said, I can't believe that Brandon Horn actually wanted one of mine, and then a guy flushed it. Like, that was incredible to me. And so it started this fire on, how does that work? I want to flush, and I want to be big time. I don't want to just make these average ones. And so I sold all the cows that I had. I kept that money to make a wish list of the cows that like would be incredible to buy, but I couldn't afford. And I'd watch for them. That's when the online sales just started. And I would watch for these cows that come up for sale. And whenever I would fall in love with one, as soon as the sale was over, I'd figure out who bought it. I'd call them, and I'd beg, steal, and borrow and offer them to flush that cow. And I would flush her to a Brahmin, and nobody was raising Brahmins, and they were all trying to raise exotics. So I wasn't a threat to them at all. So they could make money right away by selling me a flush, and that's what we did. There was a few different guys. Stan Bixler was one, and a couple others that I bought flushes in, and they flushed really well, and that started the Half Blood Nation.
How old were you when all this happened? Like the first from the get-go?
Oh, I was in high school when Sadie raised that first one, and I was a freshman in college whenever she raised the one that branded. And I started, I put in that first set of embryo calves whenever I graduated college and went to work. Mr. Sloan came up to me one day and said, you've been doing a real good job, and we've been talking, and I want to give you a raise, but I'm gonna offer you, I can give you a raise, or you can put cows on this lease place. And I said, oh, Mr. Sloan, I'd take the lease place. And he said, he started laughing. He said, you're Frank Kelby's grandson. I figured you would do that. And so all those embryos that I'd been putting together, I found a guy that was doing a deal where he'd put embryos in and you'd buy the bred cows back. And that was when I started that, my first year out of college.
Gotcha. I mean, but really starting out like in, would you say it was 6th grade, you said?
Yeah, and up to that point, I was buying like bottle babies at the sale barn for $5, and then getting them going and selling them for $100, and that's how I was making my money to try and buy a bigger heifer.
Yeah. You have 2 little boys, right? I mean, is it
Yes.
weird with them and think like, in, less than 5 years they could be doing something like that? Is it like strange to see yourself in that way, like how young you really were?
I haven't really thought about it too much. There's the youngest one's 3. They're 3 and 5. And so we're just getting out of survival mode as parents. And people are like, aren't you ready to start showing them that you're chomping at the bit? And I'm like, I'm ready just to sleep at night and to not have to wipe butts every 30 minutes. And I have not even thought that far ahead. If we had to show right now, I don't know what I would do, to be real honest. And so this year we've kind of set back and started making plans for the future with the boys. And yes, it is very, very humbling and kind of crazy because in my mind, I'm still a kid.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know that I'll ever not feel that way. So I just listened to the episode you did on the Empower You podcast, which was great. So good. And I would definitely recommend it if anybody wants to learn more about you. But you mentioned in that you had just recently had a sale, and I think it was probably October. Now, can
Yes.
you kind of explain what that sale was and how it went?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a bull sale where we combined kind of the QB's brand and American half blood uh, kind of namesake and the brand that it was built on with Bullnanza's ability to market bulls and market semen.
Mhm.
And so those two brands kind of came together to offer rare semen, offer the best American and Brahmin bloodlines that we could, and also sell a few live lots. And these are lots that I either uh, have been putting together and buying over the last year or two or raised. And we just tried to promote them as best possible. So we sold 7 live lots, and I think it was like 20 semen lots on rare and very popular American, mainly American sires. And it was very successful. The semen sale was incredible, and the bull sale alike, and it was a great success.
You're known for doing something pretty unique, the Heart of a Champion sale, um,
Yes.
which explain that for me because I don't want to say it wrong, but I mean it's pretty crazy at
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. I bounce all my marketing ideas off of Rachel.
Uh-huh.
And whenever I came up with this one, she goes, I don't know, but if it can be pulled off, I think you can do it. And I said, well, it's like in my mind, and I can't not do it. So we're going to roll. And the way the fruit that's come out of that has been absolutely amazing. And it was at a point to where we were growing and we were selling about 20 to 30 calves a year. And I had a big heart for not only trying to help kids, but to be involved in their projects and to help the families. I was coming from a place where the very first year I sold those embryo calves, we sold them in some popular sales. I sold them through some club calf traders, and they sold for really good money. But we did not have very good success with those calves when it got to the end of the year. And I'm racking my brain trying to figure out, what it is, what the difference could be. And the most amazing thing was when I got done with the first Heart of a Champion sale, rather than saying this calf went to this trader's name, this dad's name, every single animal had the kid's name beside it that was going to be showing it. And the kids took ownership from the very beginning. And I think that's why it was successful. And how that sale was set up was it was almost like a private treaty type sale where I opened up a day, a viewing date, and all the cattle were priced, but you could not buy one.
Yeah.
Whenever the kids came and viewed the cattle, they could see the ones they liked, they could see their price and see if they fit in their budget. And what they would do is submit either an essay, a video, or both, answering a stage set of questions that every kid would have to answer. They would submit that video or essay in answering those questions, and it would be to try to win the lot that they wanted.
Mhm.
The family would know the price, so that was out of the price wasn't going to change,
Yeah.
and then but they did not know if they were going to get the calf. So if there's two they like, they would give me a priority order. I like lot 2 and I like lot 23.
Mhm.
And I would have to grade all the submissions where the kids like lot 2 and pick one.
Yeah.
And then all the submissions that kids like lot 3. And it was a tedious and very heart-wrenching place to be, and like making those calls and making those decisions. but it was so rewarding at the same time. Getting to make the calls that said, y'all won it. This is this calf is yours, and those happy kids and happy families, and it created relationships that are so strong and so bonded even today. And that first sale was, maybe 2013, 2014, and that was the first year that one that I raised won a banner at a major show, and we've won a banner at a major show every year since then.
Did you know that when you work with Ranch House Designs, you can have a great website for less than $100 per month? Hi, I'm Casey, one of the project managers at RHD, and every day I help people just like you get their website projects organized and on track. Our website pricing starts at just $1,000 for basic builds, and most websites can be up and running in 6 weeks. There's a reason over 800 small businesses trust Ranch House to build and maintain their websites. We'd love to talk with you about getting started on yours. Visit ranchhousedesigns.com or call us at 979-532-9141 to set up a free sales consultation. Thanks for listening and keep hustling.
You're listening to Heartland Hustle, celebrating the ingenuity and determination of entrepreneurs in rural America. Brought to you by Ranch House Designs, the powerhouse behind America's rural marketing. Now, back to your host, Harley Gable.
Another sale that you have had in the past was something you were calling the Climb, in which you went all in and sold off all your cattle. And I kept, when I was thinking about it, every time I would read about it, I just kept thinking about, and you were really open about your faith. It is a lot like Noah and the Ark. I just kept thinking that the whole way through. It's like, man, I don't want to do this. But so tell me about that in that calling that you had, and then the impact after the fact.
Yeah. Still feeling the impact in a good way after the fact. It's another one of the things that God led me to do that's showed so much fruit. And that's how you know that it really is God's favor on you and helping you in situations whenever the fruit is good. That was a wild deal because I had just moved to Sweetwater, and the move to Sweetwater basically was a transition of, okay, now we're going to live off of what these cows are making. Because before, every year since I started it, I had never lived off anything from the cattle business, from QB. I'd always invested back in and tried to grow it and make the foundation and the brand and grow that and always put back in and never pulled out. And we got to this point where, okay, now we have this great foundation. Our brand is out there. Our cow herd is good, and we have some of the best calves that we've ever had up and coming. And so it was, looking at it from any normal perspective, it was like we're finally in a position where this thing can not only continue to grow, but we can live off of it as well, and it can make an income for us. And this is where we've wanted to be, and it took even longer than we thought it was going to take, but we're here. And Houston is over, and I can't shake this thought every time I go into prayer, every time things get quiet, of, I want you to sell them. I want you to sell them. I want you to sell them. And I was like, okay, I could see this, it makes sense. I need to get more efficient. I'll keep these 3 to 5 and I'll sell everything else.
Yeah.
No, I want you to sell them. I want you to sell them. And I'm like, why? You got to show me why. And that's a very dangerous question to ask the creator of the universe. And mainly because idea of Christianity is built on faith.
Mm-hmm.
And when you know why, it doesn't take any faith. And so I had to take a step of faith. I said, I've got a piece of paper out. I wrote down pros and I wrote down cons. And I thought the pros of doing this was going to be very short and the cons was going to be very long. And I get done and I look and I had 2 cons and about 32 pros. And I'm like, wow. And I look at the root of what the cons are, and it literally had to do with my pride.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let go. I didn't want to start over. And I look at the pros, and it's going to financially benefit my family. It can financially benefit my church. It can financially benefit others. It can not only financially, but it can benefit others by them seeing somebody that they know is passionate and loving something and sacrificing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that moment, I called Morgan Meisenheimer and I booked a picture date for everything. And I set a sale date so that way I couldn't back out. And once I did that, it was like, oh crap, what did I just do? And one person was like, well, and if it's for God, then why don't you just like give them away or sell them shit? Like, why are you doing a sale and trying to make money off of it? And I'm like, because God calls you to do things with excellence. All the work you do, you work as if you're going to do with Him. And if my heart is right, then what He blesses me with financially will be a continued blessing for others. And I was anticipating the sale to gross between 300 and 350,000. That's what my logical brain was thinking.
Yeah.
And it hit 620,000. And I was like, this is crazy. And I was thinking too, right after the sale, God's going to this is why.
Yeah.
He's going to say, this is why you did this. And still to this point, that has never happened. But I'll tell you this, even leading up to the sale and every day after, there's been 1,000 little this is whys.
Mm-hmm.
And starting Bullnanza with the size purchase that we did whenever we bought REI, there's no way we would have been in a financial place to be able to make that purchase had I not sold the cows. And then there's just so much. I mean, we don't have enough time to talk about all the good fruit and good things that have come from it. And plus, I didn't even have to go out of business the way He wanted me to do it. I had embryos in the tank that I didn't sell. I had embryo pregnancies in my father-in-law's cows. So I've had, even though it's much smaller, I've still had a calf crop to sell every year. And now my family is continuing to raise livestock, starting to get back into it, but with a completely different heart posture, a completely different mindset. And the cattle company is debt free. It carries no debt, and it is a very freeing feeling to be able to experience that. And gosh, I just wonder how it would have been like if I would have continued not and said no. And that's a scary thought for me.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, you mentioned on that Empower You podcast about how everything kind of all the roads led to the same place, and they led to the cultivation of Bullnanza, and y'all having both the Sweetwater and the Stillwater locations. And you tell a pretty funny story about that, about your partners running with FedEx, I think.
Yeah, that was actually how we ever started Bullnanza, period.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I had my cows, and my focus was, living off of these things. And we, do you want that story?
It's okay. I'll plug in Empower You. I hope people go and listen to it there. It was just, oh
It,
my gosh, it had
yeah.
me in tears. I was
Oh, yeah. So we're working cows, and long story short, we had a semen order that didn't get here. FedEx didn't drop it off. Jason blows up, and the owner of REI who shipped the shipment had to write the ship for them to release the semen without us signing for it. So anyway, he ends up at our barn the next day, and I was completely out on doing anything he was wanting to do just because my mindset was somewhere else. And Jason was like, no, he said, I think this could be good. And the way that he presented it was we would be a collection facility.
Mhm.
And they would bring down some supplies, they would train us, and we would start collecting bulls. And if it didn't work, then they just wouldn't come back, and everything would be right back to where it was. And if it did work, it could be a steady income. We had a very good foundation for as far as a facility. We had a great barn, great set of pens. The ground underneath them is good for bulls that like digging holes. We have hard, compacted sand, and we got to thinking about it, and I was like, we're right here, 40 minutes from Anson, hour and a half from Big Spring area. We could probably get Kevin Newman and Brandon Horn to start. It's like, if all else fails, people are going to want to come over and look at their bulls, and I can sell them a steer.
Mhm.
And so I said okay to Bullnanza for very, very selfish reasons, and did not pursue getting into that deal at all. And what I found was that I loved, one, the adrenaline rush of working with the cattle and training them to jump. I loved working with the best of the best, both people and livestock. And I loved being able to provide a service that not only helped the owner, but helped generations of every single person who's going to use. I mean, just think about how many herds in God we trust and his bloodlines have impacted.
Mhm.
And to be able to say that I was a small part of helping make that happen is extremely rewarding. So it fit like a glove. It's the first thing I've ever done that I didn't pursue and have a long road of pursuit to try to attain it. And um, I had a great partner with Jason, and it's just been something that's continued to grow every year. And it's a very rewarding venture.
Yeah. And with the beginning of Bullnanza, that also created your genomic service, Express Livestock Genomics. And now, did that happen at like the exact same time, or it was kind of like?
Oddly enough, it happened at the same time, but we had been pursuing the Express Livestock Genomics venture for almost a year prior.
Oh, okay.
That was a deal where Jason and I had been frustrated with the testing process on getting testing results for TH, PHA, and DS, which was, what all of our people, our clients, and ourselves were wanting to know.
Yeah.
And so we were like, that would be awesome if we could start that testing business. And dumb enough, we were like, surely you just buy a machine and plug it in and then it kicks you a result. And so we're like, if we can put the money together to buy a machine, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we started to do that, and then called. Jason found the number for a guy that was the man that actually was who was hired to find these genetic defects. So like the ag departments of these universities were getting complaints that these calves were dying with these deformities.
Mm-hmm.
And so they put professors on the job of trying to figure out what they are, how they work, all the ins and outs about them. So Dr. Beavers found the TH and the PHA and the DS, and he had a business called Genomics that he had started providing this service. And just so dumb luck, God, whatever you want to call it, Jason finds his number, calls him, and he had decided that week to sell his business. He took another job at another university and was moving. So we bought all his equipment. We bought some of his time, and I drove to the University of Tennessee to get trained by him.
Mm-hmm.
But it was during 2020. Or I guess 2019, COVID stuff was happening, and it was all crazy. And he was very slow on responding to emails. So like, I think it was April of 2019. He was like, yeah, y'all can sell it. And we bought some of the machines, but then like he hadn't shipped them, and then we still didn't know how to run them. And it was over a year-long process before we actually got going.
Wow. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But with the timing that you're talking about there.
Especially when the only class I've ever failed in my life was chemistry. And I told that teacher I was never going to use that stuff in my life. And whenever I went up to meet with him at the University of Tennessee and get trained, we literally went into a chemistry lab, and he was like, this is what you do. And I'm like, oh my God.
Irony is a hell of a feeling right there, I'm sure.
Yes.
I mean, y'all are serving your clients, as you said you're serving clients in every single, facet of the cattle industry. I mean, from on a genetic level, the stud services, and then with your cow calf operation. I mean,
Yes.
is it overwhelming, or are you just in awe of how things are now?
All of it. And I think that's what makes it awesome.
Yeah.
You start out with just kind of your head down, and I guess what blows my mind the most is my whole life, whether it be in my pursuit for a family, my pursuit to be a landowner, my pursuit to have cattle and at a high level, my pursuit to be a football player, everything I had a vision for, I had a plan that I had to map out and chase. And these were things that just like happened with no vision. But I look back, and everything I had done prepared me to be successful at them. And so I was prepared, but had no vision on what's next. I just had my head down and started mostly by dumb luck and not being as scared to take a risk. And thankfully to the people that have believed in us, that we could provide results for them and do good for them. And we've been able to continue to grow and continue to serve. And yeah, it's been crazy. And another deal is employees. Like Mary was the very first employee Bullnanza ever hired.
Mm-hmm.
She helped us with the collection process, how helped us get better there. And then she's also has her master's degree from A&M, and who can't fall in love and trust that process? That's the greatest university in the world. And she has a master's from there. And her thesis, she had the process she had to do is 3/4 of the same process that it takes to complete these genetic defect tests. So her learning curve to complete them wasn't very steep. She just had to get the last part of it down. Dr. Beaver was great on working with her, and she has been absolutely incredible. She's kept the promise outside of whenever she had to do the horrible thing and bring another life into the world, having a baby. She has not had a single client be let down by the 2-week promise that we offer of getting results within 2 weeks when we receive your sample.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been something that's just caught fire. And yes, it is. It's overwhelming at times when we have a lot of things going on. I've talked to more bankers and more lawyers and more employee meetings than I've ever thought I would ever be a part of in my life, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Y'all are the videos you guys are coming up with for both the stud service and the testing, they're pretty great, like really streamlining the process and making it really accessible. I was just like watching the stuff that you guys are putting out for your clients and prospective clients, like the collecting hair samples and breaking down those genetic defects. It's pretty great.
Well, the thing on the samples is Mary can't test a sample that isn't pulled properly. And that's the worst, is whenever getting everybody's results within 2 weeks is a blessing and a curse at the same time, because it creates a level of expectation. And so whenever you have someone who sends in a sample that wasn't taken properly, they may have been pulling that sample timing wise, needing those results within that 2 weeks. But whenever it was taken properly and we have to do it again, and then we go outside of that window, then you can't help it there to be friction in this deal. And so if we can help everybody to take a proper sample, and we can keep that promise, and then client relations stay good and everything flows smoothly. Yeah,
helps out both of you. So what's on the horizon? What's coming up?
So we are looking into more tests. Right now we do TH, PHA, and DS, which satisfies a large portion of our client base. But there's a lot of other tests out there to do. But we want to keep our same model of being the fastest. And so we want to be very selective on what defect or test that we're going to roll out next. But we do plan on growing Express in that way. For Bullnanza, we want to continue to try to provide the best service we can in all the areas that we provide service, from semen storage to shipping to marketing your bulls to getting your bulls collected. And for QB, we want to be able to continue to walk right alongside these families, have great relationships, and have the kids have experiences where they can not only taste success, but also taste the rewards of putting in the work and doing things the right way.
Yeah. To cultivate those relationships between all of you. I mean,
you bet.
Y'all are exceeding in that area. It's been absolutely wonderful to speak to you and learning, everything you're doing, your testimony. It's pretty inspiring, and we're definitely looking forward to see what's coming up and everything else.
Awesome. Well, like I say, who knows what fight is going to lead to another business venture, but I'm here for it.
Thank you so much, Kolten. It's been great.
Thank you for your time.
You've been listening to Heartland Hustle. Our passion and mission of this show is to prove to rural America that you too can have huge entrepreneurial dreams, that you have the same opportunities that anybody else has. We have guests on that have done it, and we get them to spill the beans on the good, the bad, and the ugly. So maybe you can avoid some of those pitfalls. Thanks for listening to the show. Be sure to like, rate, and review it. The show is brought to you by Ranch House Designs, the powerhouse behind America's rural marketing. You can learn everything about us, what we do, and how we can help at www.ranchhousedesigns.com. There's nothing intimidating about making your dreams become reality. See you next time.